forward. Oh, there you are. You'll be the chair of this committee, so if you want to chair today, that's fine. If not, I can
Well,
do it.
since I've not been through one of these, could you do it today? And then
Sure.
I'll take it as a learning exercise.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
My
It's been a
pleasure.
while since I've seen you, Melissa.
I know, right? For Peter, we were at the negotiations meeting last night.
Oh, okay. Got
Yep.
it.
Yeah, with Phil too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead. I see it's recording, so I'll call the meeting to order. It's 9:03 on September 16th. Phil, why don't you lead us through the first agenda item? We'll start with the Steve, for your benefit. We have combined the committees of finance and facilities, so we tend to do facilities first and then move on to finance. It's kind of our practice.
That's great. Yeah, I see Richard here. Hi, Richard.
All right, hey Mike, you can start off, Mike.
Absolutely. All right, so we had a pretty short summer, pretty hot summer, dry summer, which enabled us to bring actually some more people inside the buildings to get some of our work accomplished. We took rounds for about a month and had them work inside of the buildings with us, so it was productive. This was close to a non-COVID summer as we've had, other than the supply chain being as bad as it is and trying to get contractors. But for the most part, inside our buildings, with our personnel wise, we're able to get a lot of painting done throughout the hallways, classrooms, bathrooms, a lot of cleaning done, high touch areas. Ceiling tiles were replaced, although we still have a few more to take care of. A lot of bulbs replaced. We did, all schools are actually looking really, really well at this point. And that's conjunction with our team, and that's also with the Finico. They've really come around. We have new leadership with the Finico. Nelson Hernandez leads the crew. I have great communication with him on a daily basis. They did a great job with high touch areas and the floors. And he demands nothing but perfection. So if they do something incorrectly, he's the first one to go in there and make them do it over again, which is very good, but it also slows things down. So, but we made it. Everything is done. There were some other areas that needed to be taken care of through the year, probably done. I know we've already begun this, the carpeted areas. So pretty much everything has been flipped. Everything is cleaned and ready to go for school. Some of the things that we had worked out in-house here, we did some work in the North House. We had 6 rooms that we were able to change over lighting from the incandescent bulbs to LEDs. In these rooms, we also changed the ceiling tiles, which really brightened up the place. And as we move forward, we'll continue to do these rooms. It's just we ran out of time, honestly. But this was where we had a lot of help from the grounds crew. We also were able to do some work and do some upgrading, get some of the old mechanical switching out of the North House gym to get the AC back up and running. So I'm happy to announce that we do have air conditioning in the North House gym of the elementary school. It's been down for a number of years, but we do have it up and running.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
it's
quite
huge.
an accomplishment.
It's a huge accomplishment, and it's something that we've been trying to get to. It's just we've been really limited, but it makes a huge difference. And we put a lot more portable air conditioners in all the rooms. So the North House last year, if you recall, we had a lot of humidity issues. This year, we've had none, and we've actually tested 3 rooms for this. So between the North House air conditioning, the units that we put in, North House is much more comfortable. We're trying to brighten the place up with the new lighting. If we can do this throughout the year, we will. We'll keep continuing with rooms that have the older style lights in there, and everything ceiling tile wise has all been changed out. Nothing more needs to be changed. So it looks like a great learning space at this point, nice and bright.
Great.
And Mike, real quick. So Mike kind of breezed by this real quick, but I think this is important to mention. So with the humidity concerns, we did have, I think, 3 rooms that were a little bit on the warmer side in terms of the humidity levels. So we did test those rooms for mold. And those rooms, the levels for those rooms are pretty much within normal range. So we do not have any concerns for mold in the North House at this point for the rooms that we tested, which are the main rooms of concern.
Great.
Okay, in the South House, also elementary school, the hot water system was all changed out. We had a couple leaks that we just weren't able to take care of through the year. It was just too big of a project to try to accomplish on a weekend, or certainly not in a day. It took about a week's worth of piping and install. This was also done in-house. We took out an on-demand hot water heater and put a tank with a storage tank into it. So happy to announce that that's finally done. What we had done now for middle school, we had it in the Capitol. We took it out and put it back into operational. The art room. So this is C21, 22, 23, 24. It had the old cabinetry that was delaminating. Doors were falling off. The double bay sinks in there were past their age. The faucets that were in there were also not too operational. They had water going through them, but they weren't too operational. We took them out and replaced them with industrial large 3-bay sinks. We also changed the sediment traps, so it is still an art room. This collects all the solids, all the paint, clay, what have you, whatever the art team uses. This is a separator to make it not go into our sewage, which goes into our Xenon plant. So that's been changed. All 4 rooms, looks great, really brightened up the place and neatened it up quite a bit.
Great. I'll ask my daughter. She has art in the middle school.
There you go. Perfect. Also at the middle school, we were able to get the paving done. So the paving in the front lot, the bus loop was repaved and relined.
It looks great and it drives so well.
Yeah. And we kept people off for a couple of weeks just because the summer was extremely hot. Didn't want to take any chances. We coordinated it with American Paving, as well as the work that was being done at the pool, because they had larger trucks pulling in. So we were able to coordinate that. And the parking lot looks great. And now we can just maintain it and be in a much better place moving forward.
How is the maintenance for this project? Because I think in the past, some of the problems stem from water underneath, right?
Yeah. What happens with it is we're in New England, so you get frost heave. So just because the paving is done doesn't mean we're not going to move underneath with the freezing of the ground. So it would be, a year or 2 out. We probably have to resurface it. We'd have to see if any cracks develop, and we would want to seal the cracks.
Okay.
So yeah, we have, I'll get into that towards the end of our quick update here as to how we're going to move forward with paving. That way we have, the actual data that we need to be able to move forward. But that would be the main. It's probably a year or 2 out so that the asphalt doesn't start drying away and flake out. At the high school, we had a pretty good sized leak on our indirect hot water heater, which is a storage tank, 750-gallon tank. We had to pull a coil and reseat it. Again, this was another project that we didn't know how it was going to go, so it just couldn't have been done through the year. So this leak came up somewhere around the first of the year, somewhere around January. We were able to maintain. It wasn't too intrusive of a leak, so it wasn't harming anything. It wasn't interfering with the hot water system for the kitchens, for the bathrooms, for anything. So we're able to take care of that in-house, which is a huge plus, because that is, if that goes down, then our kitchen is out of hot water. So that was taken care of. Also in the high school B10, the orchestra pit room, the second room, we had a company come in and do acoustic floor carpet tiles for the pit room. Looks tremendous. It's a navy blue with a couple of accents in it. Has really helped the area out for two things. Just the eyesore that it was with the 9x9 beige tiles to the blue, and also acoustically it cut down some of the noise, some of the bouncing of the instruments.
Great.
One thing I did fail to mention at the elementary school, we had North House 24, which is their so-called science room. We had the VCT tile replaced. Also with the VCT tile being replaced, we had a vapor barrier put down. So we had that project taken care of out of operations this year, right at the tail end of summer. So that's been taken care of. We had a couple of portable air conditioners left over. So what we had done through campus-wide is we tried to keep our ears out to where we had complaints last year, where we had requests for AC. So we have put them all in. Majority was in the elementary school North House. So every single room in that North House, and now with the gym, has some sort of portable air conditioner, rooftop unit, which feeds air conditioning So that's a step forward. We also purchased a handful more of the portable air conditioners to
Okay.
service. At this point, we could finish out the elementary school, which I believe is a room. We have a handful of classrooms in the middle school and a handful of classrooms in the high school. So as a request comes in, we can actually take care of that as long as our power is sustainable. I know with the middle school, FG and H wing, we're going to start running into some issues with power just because the area it doesn't have a tremendous service. It's not a large service, but if we have to, we'll put it on a plan, and we'll have to just kind of alternate how we're going to do our rooms. Maybe odd numbers will be for this amount of hours in the morning, but we'll work on that if we have the power draw problem. And this will be the same thing with the high school and D wing, just limited power. There's not an actual service in D and E wing. If you recall, when we did the project in the E wing for the new split system air conditioners, we had to add a panel for power. So we're a little
Yep.
taxed, but we do have the units to put in, providing that we have the power to keep up with it.
And
Okay.
what will resolve that issue?
Could you repeat that, please?
What will resolve the power issue?
What would resolve the power issues? We'd probably have to pull the main off of the switch and put another panel in one of the rooms, in one of our electrical closets.
And is that something you're going to do, or?
We'll see where we are with with our power demand at this point, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay,
It's nothing that we've actually slated for a future project at this point.
okay, thanks.
Sure. All gyms campus wide. We had the actual surface resurfaced. We were using a product back, I don't remember what it was called, and it was halfway decent. It would get us almost through the course of a year, possibly a little bit longer. They came out with a new product. It was a 2-part Trophy H2O. I told you guys about this, that we did it in the high school to try to maintain our floor. The new gym where we had the cracking and the picking up, delaminating of the actual floor. So we were able to get every gym done this summer. So those are all complete. Really looks great. Nice sheen, a little stickier on the floor. And the longevity is really holding up. It did really nice. It's holding up very well in the high school with the new gym where we had done it in January. So it's looking really well. And now that we're back on regular sports. So these gyms are being used, whether it's
Right.
WBA, whether it's gym classes, whether it's our student athletes working. So it's actually holding up really well.
That's great. That's great.
Fields and courts. So we get to the fields. We had mentioned last year that we added clay to a couple of fields. North House, we were able to add some clay to the Refson varsity field this year.
Okay.
All fields are looking really good, surprisingly, with the weather that we had. I mean, Refson field has sprinklers, so it's a little bit different. We can use some of our water to sprinkler and keep the grass green, but everything else is looking pretty good. Clay's looking good. We should be in I think the best position we've ever been in here since I've been here in my 10 plus years for athletic fields moving into next spring.
Perfect. That'll be great.
That is
Coming right off of COVID, a great way to start.
Yeah.
We had talked last spring, I guess, or early summer about, Revson and maybe taking some of the maintenance and doing that in-house. Have we thought about that anymore, or it's kind of too soon?
We've discussed it internally quite a bit. It's a subject that we speak of a lot because, the fields need to look like Yankee Stadium. Let's just face it. That's the bottom line. That's what people expect. So I think at this point, we're going to leave it with the contractor with one exception. What's done with the clay what should be done on a daily basis is called scarifying. This is where you go in and you turn over the clay and resurface it to flat and make it softer and just allow the water to seal in. In-house, we have purchased a device that goes on one of our machines to scarify the fields. So we are going to every morning that we are here and possibly weekend too with games, we're going to take over the scarifying asset of it. We just weren't happy. And it was, contract was three times a week that they were supposed to do it, barring a game or two here and there. We just weren't happy with the way it was turning out.
Okay.
Chuck Early Grounds is very meticulous, and he wasn't happy with the way that the clay was looking. It turned into almost asphalt. It was just very, very hard. And it's supposed to be relatively hard, but not what it was. So we're going to take that part of it. So we'll have to tweak their contract moving forward, because that'll take some
Mike, real quick.
time.
I'm sorry, Mike. So
Yeah.
it's just to add a little bit more color to that. So it's not necessarily that they weren't doing it. I think what we're trying to do, we're trying to enhance. This is pretty much an add-on to whatever it is that we're doing. So whatever we're doing here in the mornings and on a more frequent basis, it's really more as an add-on in addition to everything that they have been doing. So there probably will not be any tweaks to the contract to their pricing. We're just doing this because of what we expect and what we want the fields to look like. So this is more for us and to get us to our expectation.
Great. Can we let the baseball and softball families know that somehow? Because this is something extra we're doing, and I'm sure they would be appreciative.
You know what? I think in terms of more that we're doing, I don't necessarily think that I want to say that we're doing is what we should be doing. So it's more of what should be done to get us to maintain the expectation. So this is more what needs to be done. So we're just doing it. What we're hoping is that when people go to the field and they do see the conditions of the fields, that they will let us know that they're happy with the field. We did put quite a bit of work and money into the field over the summer. We added a tremendous amount of clay because the levels were low, and we have not added clay to any of our fields, both to the softball fields at the North House, and also to both the JV and the varsity field up at Revson.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just keep our ear out and spread the good word if we hear anything from the families. So I think that sounds great.
Excuse me, this field has been so problematic over the years. Your thought, Melissa, is a good thought. There is a baseball community here. We certainly have heard from them over the years with all the issues surrounding Revson Field, Phil and Mike. It probably would be a good idea to reach out to the leaders of the baseball community to let them know that rather than them coming to us, we're going to them to make sure that they're aware of, the effort and the care that you've put into these fields.
Sure. I think what we'll do, Steve, we'll take some pictures of the current conditions, and we'll work with athletics to get the word out to the families.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea, Melissa.
Another quick addition to the varsity baseball field, JV baseball field, North House varsity girls softball. Working with Mark Berkowitz, our maintenance team, and the Diamond Club, they've allowed to purchase, and they're going to have installed 2 30-foot flag poles with the flag to be hung. So we'll have those. I believe we talked to our distributor. It will be done this fall. So those will be in place also for next season.
And that's the field right as you pass Hurlbut on your way to West, right? The one.
This is going to be the field as you pull in from Route 57, and you could take a right to go to the elementary school and a left to go to the other buildings.
Yeah.
It's that field that's right there. That's the
that's what I thought.
varsity. Yeah.
Oh wow! So these will be 30-foot flagpoles right there.
30-foot aluminum poles, yeah, with external halyards, and it'll have, I forget the size of the flags, but yeah, it'll be similar to the football field.
Oh, well, that'll look great.
You'll do what they need to do.
Great.
All right, that's all I have for the quick updates. I just want to add a couple of things that we've been working on, trying to move forward with. The electric vehicle charging stations. I had walked the company through Titan Energy. Probably mid-July. Monday, we had gotten a proposal for the install. We had hoped to have these installed in the main parking lot of the high school, coming off of a telephone pole with power on it. that turned out to not be an option. So
Mm.
unfortunately, the workload and the amount of cost to put it into the front of the high school just became just too high. So it's not that we can't do it. So now we have just moved our focus as opposed to the front of the high school, it'll be C wing of the high school, which if you're not familiar with C wing, that is going to be the side of the building closest to the middle school. It's a shorter run, smaller copper
Okay.
wire. So that's where we're looking into do this project. We haven't signed anything. Like I said, we literally just received this proposal on Monday, so we've been looking through it. We went through the same Titan Energy, which is where the town went through with Jonathan Louise, and where they're
Okay.
thinking about putting their charging stations. So that is something that we have on our on table for the future, or what we'd like to have installed.
Okay.
So I guess we need to just have a larger discussion in terms of the funding source for this, right?
Mhm.
We can, I mean, we, as we'll talk about later on, we will have some money that will be given back to the town. And we have to, if the committee agrees, have some conversation with the Board of Finance about funding for this project. I do not believe that there's any available funding from the grant on the town side to pay for this project. So, we just have to have that discussion. We can have it now in terms of how we should do this. We can either include this in our budget for next year, or we can maybe see what the year holds for us for this fiscal year. And if there's any available funds, we can use those funds to pay for this, or we can just go directly to the town and ask the town for money to do this.
Okay. Are we far enough along that we have an estimate, given that the location has changed and we had that hurdle? Do we have a sense as to what we're looking at
We do.
with the new location?
Yes, we do. So a similar unit that a town is looking into would cost us with insulation, and I think the product itself, it's about $42,000. There is an incentive, I think, from Eversource for about $20,000 or so. So we're looking at about $23,000 or so for this unit, and I do believe this is a double unit, Mike.
It's a double, yes, that's correct, with the capability to add on in the future.
Okay, so how many, does that mean that it's a charging area for 2 cars if it's a double unit?
Yeah, it'll be one post, one pedestal, we'll call it, with two leashes. Yes.
Okay. And have we had, I mean, other than obviously the environmental aspect of this, have we had requests from people for electric
We have.
charging? On a
Yeah, Mike
practical level?
Aiken had our sustainable.
Yeah, green team. Yep.
Yeah. There's been requests since he began here. Yes.
Okay.
And I think from a town perspective, this will be a great add-on. So in addition to the 2 that will be at Town Hall, we will have the ability just for the town just to be able to use these things when we do not have faculty or students in the building. Of course, the charging will not be free for the town, for the residents, but it will be free based on how it's written. It will be free for staff and students.
Okay. Do you want to talk any more about the charging stations, or do you want to move on?
What's the lead time? I mean, we have a pretty hefty agenda today. What's the lead time? I recognize we only meet monthly, so I don't want to put us in a pickle. I don't want to put you in a pickle timing wise, but if this is something we can discuss next month, it may.
Yeah, we could discuss next month. We're in the preliminary, so we haven't even discussed lead time or when they would have the manpower to get their contractors out here. So yeah, we could absolutely continue this conversation. And
okay, well, maybe Peter, Steve, unless you have some preliminary thoughts you'd like to share, maybe we'll have a bigger conversation at our next meeting.
No, that's fine with me.
Okay, I see Peter nodding. Okay.
So the next
All right,
thing
so we'll do that.
next thing we wanted to bring up was how we were talking about paving.
Yes.
And what's the maintenance? What do we do moving forward with these lots? Last year when we presented that we wanted to do the main lot of the high school and the bus loop of the middle school, we ran into difficulties, and barring our own too, we didn't have analysis done. We were going off of a analysis that what was called the beta group had done for the town roads, town parking lots, which included our parking lots as well. So we were feeding off of that. Unfortunately, the information was a little bit old. The information that was given, the analysis that was given, didn't quite correlate to what we had going on in campus. So we would like to do our own, same company, same group, same contacts, and have them come in and do an inspection, and come up with services on how we can move forward for repairs, how we would base our repairs, why we would say our repairs need to be done now and not just by the naked eye. It would be done by analysis, and we would have the proper data to actually back up our request. It's a three-part series. The task one is the existing conditions report. They'll check out all the parking lots, all their drives, and they'll give us technical information. Then what they'll do is they'll come up with a capital improvement plan over 5 years for us to how to move forward with these replacements or rebuilds. Now this isn't just repaving. This plan would also include if it just needed to be resurfaced, if cracks need to be refilled, then resurfaced, or if it was patches. So this is just gives us the data and analysis to be able to move forward with the data in hand for what repairs need to be done, as opposed to just requesting or whatever the dollar figure is to have a parking lot redone. Cost of this project is roughly, with the capital investment planning, which I think which is also key, is it says not to exceed about $19,650. Their analysis, they believe, is going to be about $17,700. This is something that we would like to have for our campus and our campus alone, separated from the town. That way we have the analysis data that we need to move forward.
Right, and I think it's twofold, right? So this information was information that was requested both by the Board of Finance and also by the Board of Education. I think during budget deliberation, I think it was pointed out to us that payment is normally done via capital funding. So although it's a Board of Ed project, I do believe my recommendation would be for the Board of Finance or for the town for this to be funded as a part of a broader capital project by the town. So we can have those discussions. I'm not quite sure ultimately where this will land. And before we jump on to another topic, we do have Tracy here, and we do have a situation that Tracy needs to attend to. So if we could just make a slight modification to the agenda.
Sure.
Is that my
Let's
cue to
do that.
jump in?
No. I was just gonna.
Oh.
It is your cue to jump in, but I was just gonna take a look at the agenda real quick. What do we need Mike and Richard for? Are they going to be able to hang tight for a little while, or because we still want to do over the capital projects? Do you guys want to just?
You can hang tight.
You're not. That's not going to be a challenge for you.
Not at all.
Okay, terrific. All right, well then let's move forward. Tracy, I don't know if Lisa wanted to speak first or Tracy, but let's have an update on the staffing in special ed and PPS.
I think that Tracy can start and I'll chime in.
Sure. So I think all of you are aware of the communication that went out yesterday regarding staffing in PPS special education, particularly within our leadership team. So I want to provide a little bit of context about what the last 2 years have looked like, and also present at least a preliminary recommendation for moving forward. For those of you who have been in the Board of Education meetings, I think you're aware that the last 2 years have been incredibly challenging in the areas of PPS and special education, not just in Weston, not just in our area, not just in Connecticut, but nationally. essentially, we're seeing an increase, like many other districts, in academic needs, and we're also seeing a significant increase in the mental health needs of our students. Those are two very broad umbrellas, right? And I'm not going to go into detail in this meeting. In addition to seeing an increase in need, we're also seeing an increase in the complexity of that need, meaning it's not just about numbers of students, it's what specific students and their families, of course, are navigating as we kind of shift into a world that looks a little bit more post-pandemic. Suffice it to say that the roles and responsibilities of the special education and PPS administrators are complex, and they're challenging for a number of reasons. This is highly individualized work. It is highly technical work. And the types of supports and services our students need require an extensive amount of collaboration with a variety of stakeholders, not just within our community. There's lots of responsibilities within the position. I will be very candid and say that a huge part of the position is meetings. There is an extensive amount of time spent by all three of us as administrators in meetings with staff and families planning for specific students. Last year alone, in terms of PPTs and kind of team meetings, we're talking about close to 1,000 meetings in a district of our size, which is noteworthy. And part of that, again, goes back to the complexity. We're often not meeting about a student once. We're meeting about a student 5, 6, 7 times monthly, maybe, depending on their level of need. And a lot of this involves, like I said, close work with a variety of partners. I think you're all aware that for the last several years, there has been a structure of the director position and 2 assistant directors, 1 assistant director overseeing Hess and Wyss, and the other assistant director overseeing the work at the middle school and high school. I think we have had a significant amount of turnover in those roles. That is certainly acknowledged at every level. I'm very mindful of that. I've done a significant amount of reflecting about that and why that might be the case. I do think we need to be rethinking how we are meeting the demands of the work that's happening within this department. I don't know, maybe I should pause there if there are questions, and then I don't know if it would be helpful for me to talk about, so what now? What do we do now?
No, I think that's a really helpful background. I take your point about what's happening statewide and nationwide. I take your point about the increase in the complexity of the need. So I think, our questions are I would imagine, Steve and Peter, our questions are going to be around, what can we do to better support you and your department? These are huge issues, and we want to make sure that we're structured in a way that can meet these needs, but also that we're recruiting in a way that can meet these needs. And I'm interested in the challenges that you see, both from, once we find somebody and hire them, what challenges we see in the district in implementing those roles, but also what challenges we see in getting the right bodies in the right seats, because that seems to be a big one. And particularly this time of year, school just started. That's I would imagine that would be a hard spot to fill. So, it's not, I don't think I have a specific question. It's just I probably echo and share your concerns. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on those points. And then I don't know if Peter and Steve have anything else, but overall, Tracy, the message is that, this is a really important part of what we do in Weston, and we know what a great job you're doing, and with incredibly challenging resources and incredibly challenging circumstances. So, what can we do to help you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Two things I feel like I need to say in response to that. One is, please know that I, in conjunction with Lisa and the rest of the administrative team, are working both on immediate solutions to this, because you're exactly right, Melissa. This is a very complex time for this transition to be happening. So there's an immediate, what are we doing right now to address this? And there's already some steps in process there. And then there's the reason I'm here today, kind of what's the longer term solution? How do we create a system and a framework that ideally helps us avoid being in this situation moving forward? So I think that's a good segue. I can tell you that I've looked very closely at the PPS special education administrative structure in our neighboring districts. The districts that we talk about all the time with comparable student populations, not necessarily size, but I mean level of need, types of services and supports. Our structure, and I'm not going to go down the list of information I have from every district in the interest of time, but suffice it to say, our structure looks pretty different from our area schools. And I know that people will say, well, those other districts are so much bigger than ours. I hear that. At the same time, in other districts, what we're seeing is more of a building level focus. So I can give you an example. We have a neighboring district that's about twice our size. In addition to having that role as an assistant superintendent role, but comparable to my position, they have a supervisor of health services. They have a preschool director. They have a coordinator of school psychology services, and they have an assistant principal at each building who is overseeing special education and pupil personnel services. That model of having someone in a building exists not in every district in the area, but in a couple of others. There's another neighboring district has a tri-board structure, and they have 3 special education administrators for their preschool through 8 population, and 1 full-time and 1 part-time special education PPS administrator at the high school level. I'm happy to share data if people want to dig deeper into that. I think the moral of the story is we are seeing patterns of need in this district, and I'm not looking to replicate what's happening in other places, but we're seeing a pattern of need, much like these other districts, primarily in the upper grade levels. I'm not minimizing the complexity and demands that our elementary staff navigates every day, but the mental health concerns and the programming needs are very intense at the high school specifically. So one of the structures that I'd like to talk about and think about is expanding the assistant director role so that there are 3 people serving in that position rather than 2. And I can talk to you about kind of the grade level structure for that.
Could I take a quick, Tracy, could I just jump in here? The numbers you gave us for the surrounding districts,
Yes.
is their spending given comparable to ours, given their size? And in other words, if they may have twice the number of students, is their budget, is their budget comparable to ours given the differential in size?
Are you talking specifically about their budget as it pertains to administrative support, or their budget overall?
The support for the programs. In other words, their staffing is more robust than ours currently is?
From an administrative standpoint, generally speaking, yes.
Yeah, so if we were, I may not be saying this correctly, but on a comparable basis, pupil to pupil spending,
Yeah.
Are we appear to be understaffed based on what you just said. If we were to bring ourselves up to that level, would I guess we'd have to get an understanding of the cost, but so,
Mhm.
if I'm making it up, if Wilton has that type, I don't know what Wilton staffing is, has that type of staffing, is their need comparable to ours, that in terms of percentage of number of students, and hence they need that type of staffing? Because if what you're saying is we're understaffed, but our demand is equal, then that's something we should really take into consideration as we build out the support for your group.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I wish I had more. I can certainly get numbers for you in order to answer this question. It sounds like kind of what you're getting at is what is the number of students overseen by people in these particular roles, and how does that compare to the number of students here? And also, how does the percentage of the budget allocated for PPS special education compare to the percentage that's allocated in other districts based on their need? Is that
Yeah, you're much more eloquent than I am. Yes, thank you.
I don't have those numbers at my fingertips, to be honest with you. I'm happy to dig into this more and look specifically at how many identified students they have in those districts, how many identified students per building, who's doing what.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful as well.
Sure. Are there-
Perhaps maybe I should add something, not to just jump in, but there are a couple of points I would like to make. The workload for these two people and for Tracy is, we're at a tipping point. It's very, very challenging between the meetings, the complexity of needs, responding to parents, working with staff, trying to come up with comprehensive, sort of balcony views of how we can continue to revise and refine our programs. We're still in triage. Today's a perfect example. I stepped away. There's a situation. It must be dealt with. And that's why Mike and Mr. Wolf are waiting, because we had to get Tracy in, because as soon as we finish this call, she and I will be going to going to one of the schools. So it's becoming untenable. And the staff burnout at the level of the administrative positions in SPED has been tremendous. And we have to take a pause. We have some ideas. We have to figure this out, because our students deserve the very best, our families, that we can provide. And it's becoming extremely, extremely challenging. My letter did speak to the last assistant director who announced his resignation. And I want to be very clear, and many people have spoken to him. He's going back to being a school psychologist. He does not want to do this work anymore because of the time commitment and the hours and what he had to do. He's putting his family first. And we have seen that, unfortunately, time and time again, especially in this field. It's unmanageable, and we need to fix it, and we need to continue looking at it big picture, and then down in the weeds. We have spent so much time in the weeds trying to just get through it that it's unsustainable. So maybe that's
I
a
understand.
segue.
No, I'm definitely interested in the solutions you're proposing. I'm also wondering if the turnover here is higher than I understand that the complexities of the job and the recruiting and the hiring is challenging nationwide, statewide, district-wide, DIRG-wide, everywide. Are we experiencing acute levels of turnover that our neighboring districts are not, because our workload in Weston is structured differently than their workloads? Are there people in our neighboring districts staying in these positions longer because, frankly, they're not having to do as much of this work, to the points that Mr. DeStefano made in his departure. Is that typical here in Weston?
I can address that question. I think there is a high degree of turnover in special education in general. I will say though, and I'll be transparent about this, there is a higher degree of administrative turnover in Weston right now than in surrounding communities. I think there's a variety of reasons why that's the case. And I think one of the reasons is the demands of this position are different. The structure is different. Some of the things that we're working through as a district look different.
There's another key piece in this. We are really trying to maximize our support staff, look at our support staff, maximize the capacity of what we have. However, if I may, when Tracy assumed the position pre-COVID, or in the middle of COVID, I can't remember. And I don't know if everyone on this meeting knows, she did not have a sole secretary. That position, for whatever reason, had been cut, and the support staff here at Central Office was going to absorb it. So for the first, 6 months, you didn't really have a designated clerical person. When you look at some of these other districts, there are designated clerical positions in these schools to help with guidance and special ed. Several years ago, the positions at the schools, because we were looking to reduce, the decision was made by Central Office to cut the guidance secretarial positions in the school buildings. And the support staff has to pick it up. So to be frank, what you get are administrators that do not even have appropriate clerical support to help get through the work, and they are doing that kind of work on top of it.
Lisa,
That's
Lisa,
really hard.
Not to cut this short, but this really would appear to me to be something that the Board of Education, really needs to put together, either a group or collectively amongst ourselves, to really come up with a defined plan. We're certainly not going to solve it all, and there's no question that the demand on Tracy's and her team's time is only going to get enhanced with now fewer people, and we are in the school year. It makes it even more difficult to find people. I really think we need to really hone in on, because just in my short time on the board and our conversations, I mean, this is a true focal point that needs to be addressed and addressed, as quickly as we can.
I would agree, Steve. Maybe, Tracy, it's a good point to just talk very briefly about what we have already talked about.
Sure. So looking at a model of 3 assistant directors in the district, a potential grade level structure for this would be preschool. I think the board is well aware that we've expanded our preschool program significantly this year, going from 3 classes to 5 classes. We are still seeing referrals. I do not know if that is going to be a bubble or not at this point, but there are a significant amount of demands associated with preschool programming and just the intake and evaluation of students at that level. So one assistant director in this model would be overseeing preschool through grade 3. In addition to being able to focus more on that early intervention support, this model also provides for continuity in the transition from 2nd to 3rd grade. Obviously, at that point, students are transitioning from HES to WIS. I think that's an area that we need to be looking at closely for a variety of reasons, and having someone oversee that process more directly would be beneficial. The second assistant director would oversee grades 4 through 8. The rationale for that is somewhat similar. Again, that provides support around the transition from the intermediate school to the middle school, which has certainly been an area of focus, and it allows us, again, to provide more targeted focus support at those grade levels and between those two buildings. By design, this model leaves the high school as a standalone, meaning that the third position would be overseeing grades 9 through 12 at the high school and also our post-secondary programming. The reason for this focus is, one, the number of students, two, the mental health needs that we're seeing at the high school and the planning that's needed around that. Three, a majority of our out-of-district placements are certainly at the middle school and high school level, but I would say the high school more so. That requires a great deal of oversight from an administrative standpoint. We don't just have students attend those other schools. We're still responsible for their programs. It also allows this person to do the work that needs to happen post-secondary. So we have our 18 to 22 population. I've talked in previous Board of Education meetings about the fact that we do not have a formal in-house program, largely because of our size. And so that particular age cohort also requires a great deal of coordination and planning with partners largely outside of our school district. That work is critical. Our job as educators is to prepare students for life beyond high school. For that population of students, that 18 to 22 period is absolutely critical to be preparing them for adulthood and whatever support systems and structures will exist for them beyond the public school system. These positions, to the greatest degree possible, are as equitable from my perspective as possible, and allows us to be focusing the time and energy that I think we need to be making the systemic changes and adaptations that we need to be making as a PPS special education department in order to continue to move forward.
Okay, I think that's a thoughtful proposed solution. How do you anticipate, or what do you see as the challenges? Should we move forward with a model like this in short-term versus long-term? How soon would we be able to find attractive candidates, and what are the challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think actually, Melissa, you said it earlier in the meeting. I'll be very transparent. This is a complex time of year to be having this conversation. Do I think that the modifications for these roles will be more attractive? Yes. To people who are interested in exploring other professional opportunities. I think this demonstrates some reflection about the scope of the position. I think this will be a draw to candidates who have strong qualifications. As I said earlier, though, this is not a solution that is going to happen, next week. And so my immediate work is around our current model and helping the entire district, students, staff, and families navigate the period of time while we're working through both what the structure needs to be and who is going to fill these seats. I can tell you that I and many of my colleagues in this district have spent an extensive amount of time over the last couple of years around each of these transitions, actively recruiting. We don't just sit and wait for applications. It is a huge part of my job and my responsibility, and I take it very seriously that I need to get the right people on the bus. We're going to be relentless about doing that. This is an amazing community with a tremendous amount of potential. I feel confident sharing that with prospective candidates, but it is going to take us some time. I'm
worried. Yeah, I'm worried about the short-term burdens on, we don't have enough administrators to absorb this type of loss. So, I think I don't want to say obviously, but my thought would be that that some of this is going to be falling on the building level principals and assistant principals to help out. To what extent, are there short-term solutions in terms of whether it's short-term clerical help and things like, to Lisa's point, that could alleviate, some of the time-consuming aspects of this to allow the administrators to focus on the administrator-specific components, and that those jobs and positions may be easier to fill, in the short term and on a temporary basis while we wait to implement our longer plan. Because I do also agree with what Steve was saying earlier. This shortage and this structure, the way that we have it, and a move to a different structure, it has obviously an impact on our students and our families in the day to day. But it also can have budgetary impact down the road too. If families are not satisfied with the services they're seeing, they'll start leaving the district and moving potentially to outplacement costs, which we know are more expensive. So I think, and not necessarily, most importantly, not necessarily the best place for their children if they were happier with their children here in the first place. So let's make sure that as we think about the solutions to this, that we recognize that there are things that we might be able to do in the short term temporarily, but really think bigger picture and more strategically for the longer term. So maybe Steve's idea of a committee to help you, Tracy, from the board, help you navigate this with Lisa and Phil.
Yes, I'm certainly open to any of those possibilities. In response to your question about the immediate, I can tell you that we have an open administrative assistant position, to your question about clerical work, that we had proposed through the grant in the budget last year, not because of turnover. We were looking for an additional person. I have not found a candidate that I feel comfortable bringing in to do this kind of work. I've looked at every application personally. I've screened people. I've had conversations with, the places that they worked previously. And that's been a challenging position to fill as well. While I'm not ready yet to present an interim plan from an administrative standpoint, I have made movement on that. And we'll be prepared with an announcement about what's happening kind of right now in those buildings, so that students, staff, and families can have some reassurance about the administrative support specific to PPS special education while we work through this. But I am working on both fronts, both the administrative level and the administrative assistant level. I will tell you, you're aware that we've transitioned to CT SEDS, the new IEP and the new IEP system. I think that is complicating the ability to find administrative assistants who are prepared to do that work. I'm certainly not looking for anyone with expertise in that program. None of us have expertise in that program yet, but it is a steep learning curve, and it has been incredibly time intensive district-wide and statewide. So that's another kind of added challenge on top of this. I'm just being transparent about where we are and some of the things that we're trying to work through.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I think you touched on the last point I was going to make, which is just I think we just have to really communicate frequently with the parents so that they can understand what's happening, and also with our staff so they can understand what we're doing to remedy this. And I think, you don't have a proposal you're bringing forward for us today other than just your thoughts on the move to the 3 administrators.
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that. I've thought about other structures to get to that point. I don't want you to think I just came with here's an initial idea. This is an idea that has been thought through. I personally, given where we are and the type of structure that's already in place, we're not shifting on a dime to an assistant principal model. Like within our structure as a district, this is what I think is the best plan for moving forward. I'm certainly open to
Okay.
feedback, and Steve's questions were great. I'm happy to follow up on those and get some additional information.
Yeah,
And if there are other questions, I can do that too.
I think that would be helpful. And then you'll be, or Lisa, one of you will be making a kind of an update at the board meeting on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I will try to get these specific questions require me obtaining
understand.
information from other districts. I will do my very best to get that. Regardless, we're prepared to talk about this again in the Board of Education meeting.
Okay. I think that would be helpful. Thank you for this update. Steve, Peter, do you have anything else for Tracy and Lisa?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just stay in touch on this, obviously. And thank you for your good thinking. We'll continue to support you through this process. And I think your suggestions are good ones. And I think we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to meet the needs of our students in our community. And if there are other models in neighboring districts that are accommodating that efficiently and better, then those are things we need to be exploring. So let's keep doing that.
I appreciate the time and the support. So thank you.
Sure. Okay, so and it sounds like you have something else to get to, so we'll let
Yes.
you
I
let you go.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Okay. Let's go back. I think we're on capital.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I have some updates for Capital 22, which was the previous year's capital. We had the windowsill project at the intermediate school is now complete. It took them a few weeks, but it's all taken care of. Looks great. There'll be a stage 2 to this. Richard and Joe Nevins, the engineer with the contractor, found that expansion joints in the brickwork need to be reworked. They're watertight at this point. I believe Joe Nevins said within a year or two, we'd have to start working on some expansion joints. Initially, he was going to draw a job scope on a spec as to what he needed. At this point, he is going to just provide Capasso with the caulk that they need to use, and Capasso will give us a per seam cost to do intermediate school and the addition side of the high school from 2006.
Okay.
Also, Capital 22, the high school nurse's window was cut. The hole was cut for the opening. A temporary window was installed. The new window, which is an operable window, should be shipped today. I'll get an update from our manufacturer installer when this meeting is over, but it was supposed to have been shipped on the 16th, so let's see if it does. High school old gym, AHU rebuilds. Been working with Jack and the building committee, Jack with the building committee and Jack with ABS for the correct language is how we're going to do the rebuilds. Finally got the correct language, going to get it over to Jack. All parts are ordered. When I say all parts, it's motors, it's bearings, it's minimal parts. And I was promised that the project would be completed by the end of November, realistically by Thanksgiving break that we have here. So that's what I have for Capital 22. Capital 23, still working on the item number 1, which is the air handler replacement for the high school C5. Still working on the HVAC system for the weight room, dance studio, and the high school as well. So that's line items 1 through 8. District-wide security initiatives. Supply chain has really put a ruffle in this. We had this ordered almost immediately, July 1. Difficulties of shipping. I was told that they were shipped to our installer on the 24th. I'll get a follow-up to find out where that is. It's all exterior enunciating. So I'll find out the deal with that. Item number 3 is ductwork cleaning. All schools, I'm happy to announce, and what a difference in all the schools. All ductwork has been cleaned. All of our air
Great.
coolers have been cleaned, rooftop units have been cleaned, everything has been cleaned, disinfected, vacuumed, brushed. So we're in great shape. The only two buildings that we're waiting on, and because we always take care of ourselves last, is the annex and central office. But they asked if they had a little bit of leniency, that way they could finish schools to get them up and running before they got to our administrative buildings. I told them
Sure.
no problem. Item 4 is the door addition to the gym at the intermediate school. That door opening was cut. The door has been installed. It's about 75% done. Some top interior aluminum brakework needs to be done. It's been a slow go, but it's the way it is with every contractor that we're dealing with. They're jumping around different projects, trying to keep everybody happy. It works, it's operable. We're taking care of the trim work on the inside. So that project moved along pretty well. Should be completed within the next week or two. Line item number 5 is the high school tennis courts. All repairs are done. They did a nice, clean, professional job. Looks great, functional. Everybody's happy. We have the pumps in the middle school again with.
Real quick, I'm sorry, I just want to spend just a few minutes on the tennis courts. So the company Hinding, I think they did a decent job in terms of getting repaired, and the courts, that they look great. It's not going to be a long-term solution because we still, as good as they are, we still have a few dead spots on those courts. And the main reason for that is because of the wetlands and water intrusion that we have on those courts. So at some point, we're going to need to have a more long-term discussion in terms of maybe relocation of the tennis courts. But for right now, they're now in good playing condition. So we're happy with the work that was done. But long term, we have to keep this on our radar.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, line item number 6, the Weston Middle School, the replacement of all the heating and cooling pumps. Ran into another issue with having qualified mechanics to do the work. The project was much slower. We do have the first set. Everything we have is redundant, a first and second pump for every system that we have. All first run is out. All first run has been delivered back to us and has been installed. Probably going to hold off until April, May when we turn the heat off to have the phase 2 done, which is the second pumps. Just can't take a chance of, we were promised about a 2 to 4 week turnaround. It turned into more of a 8+ week turnaround. So we just can't take a chance with heating season to be having no redundancy. No redundancy would just set us up for failure, and we can't have areas down without heat. Everything is still functioning. I mean, if we have a couple leaks, we'll deal with it like we do every other year, but they will go out at the end of this heating season. And that way we have a lot more time to have everything brought in. And it's not like these pumps are small. They're very large pumps. So it's just an abundance of caution to hold off until heating season's over to have the second set done. So we'll pay for the initial cost for the first run, and then we'll worry about the second run next.
Okay.
Intermediate school, high school fire panel replacements. When we brought in another additional company to actually look at our fire panel, our fire system, we weren't happy with the way Encore was working with us. Their customer service was terrible. The way they went about repairs was terrible. They gave us bad information. We brought TPC in. They are now monitoring our fire panels. They do all our fire reporting, much more professional of a company, hands-on. They're going to get their hands on the buildings again. They've already been in every single building. They've walked them with me personally. They've been involved with the fire panels. We were, like I said, given bad information that the panels were about 5 years from being obsolete. Completely not the case. It seemed like the previous company was just trying to make a few dollars on us. So the monies that we have with this, we're going to turn into just taking care of some of our older devices.
Mike, real quick, let me jump on this one real quick. So I think what we're doing with item 7 is that we're kind of taking a step back, and we have engaged with TPC to pretty much reevaluate our entire system. And I think that's something that we haven't been done. And I think Encore, as Mike mentioned, has been a little bit problematic. So we're taking a step back, and we're kind of going to take a different approach to this project. So we will provide some additional updates for this project in the coming months. But I think with TPC, one of the main reasons why we have made the change is just the level of support that we expect from all of our vendors and all of our partners, and we weren't getting that. And I think we were getting a lot of runaround with Encore. What we are hoping and what we've seen with TPC is that we have a higher level of customer support. And I do believe that the quality of the work and also the cost that's involved with the various repairs that's involved will be better than what we saw with Encore. So item 7, we will definitely provide further updates on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the rest of the line items will all be fall projects working into next spring. So they haven't even begun. I'll be working with the building committee for bringing in consultants and different things that we need to do with the rest of the line items for consulting for bathroom modifications, North House HVAC. So that will all be down the pipeline working with the building committee.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for all of that, Mike. That's very helpful.
You're very welcome.
Does the committee have any questions for Mike?
I just have one
Yeah.
one comment. Melissa, I sent you and Steve a press release from the state of Connecticut, right?
Yes, I saw that.
So we should make Phil, if he's not already aware of it, because I think some of these capital line items for HVAC and other related equipments probably meet the criteria, right? So if we're spending money here, maybe the state matches it with that announcement. So why not try to leverage?
Yeah. You sent that. Can you send that to Phil so he has access to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Peter?
Send it to
I
Phil.
think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, if we're talking about the grants for HVAC upgrade, if I'm correct, I don't believe that grant, we definitely do plan to apply, but I do not believe that the grant application is open as yet.
No, I think it's an announcement that it's opening. So if you're dialed into it, great. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, no, absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's actually probably good for our planning for budgetary reasons.
Yeah. There were some webinars scheduled, Phil. I don't know.
Yeah, September 30th, I think there's the first.
And then October 14th. So I don't know if that's something you're.
Yeah, because this, I think this is tied with another IEQ in what is it? What's the abbreviation again? So it's an indoor air quality initiative that the state has pretty much mandated. So I think this is pretty much to couple with this. There hasn't been a lot of additional information regarding the new law that was passed July 1. So everything is pretty much, the law is passed and we're pretty much waiting for additional guidance from the state.
Fantastic. All right, we're on it then.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Phil.
And that's all I have for reporting for for capital 22 and 23.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Mike. That's always very thorough and helpful. Certainly appreciate that.
Very welcome.
All right, I'm just going down the agenda. The next thing is the sub pay rate discussion.
Yeah, I can give some insight regarding the sub pay about that. So as you know, it's been several months, several years that there's been any kind of increase with the sub rates. I think more importantly, we saw during COVID and even now the difficulty in having subs come into the district. I think the number of subs that we have had just applying has been significantly reduced. In addition to that, all districts are in a similar situation where they cannot find subs. What we have heard is that districts are increasing their daily sub rates, and this specifically has to deal with the daily sub rate. So our current rate is $100, and it has been $100 for neighboring districts as well. We have word that one of our neighbors, there are as high as I think 130, and we do have another one who's currently at 115. We are proposing an increase to the daily sub rate of 100 to 120. And this will get us close in line as well to the minimum wage as well. So that is pretty much our recommendation, to be at 120. It does not necessarily mean that by increasing it to 150 that we'll have additional subs, because the pool is really limited. And if we were, and from a cost perspective, the additional cost, if we use last year as a base point, we're looking at approximately $17,000 more.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, to
Yep.
project it out.
Yep.
Okay.
So if the committee is okay with that, I think we just want to go ahead and make that change. I'm not sure if we need to have a broader discussion with the board. We do have money budgeted for subs, but we just wanted to just give just an alert that the cost is going to be a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds reasonable from my perspective. Peter, Steve, do you have any thoughts?
No, that sounds reasonable as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's
All right.
Okay. All right, moving on. So then the next items are the fiscal year 21 encumbrance update, followed by the fiscal 22 end of year financial report.
Yep. Just wanted to give a quick update for FY21 encumbrance. So we did end fiscal 21 with open encumbrance of approximately $637,000. We have liquidated the vast majority of that. So there is encumbrances that we have that we will not be spending and not be using for $97,247. So that money will be returned to the town.
Okay. Great.
FY22, my years are all mixed up. FY22. So during the course of last year, we've had this ongoing discussion in terms of the overall difficulty with staffing, turnover, FML, and everything else. And so we did try our very best to get back to normal as much as we could. But we were nowhere close to that, and we struggled with staffing. So when you look at fiscal 22, we are looking, that we will end the year on a gross level with approximately $1,391,051 as a budget surplus. The vast majority of that really falls in two broad categories, and it has to do with staffing, and it has to do with benefits. From a salary perspective, if you look at the highlight in terms of salary, from a turnover perspective, we're looking we had $811,000 in for turnover. That ranges from change in administrative staff and also change in our general population. This turnover will also include positions that we did not fill during the course of fiscal 21. It also includes programs that we weren't able to have because we had to pretty much reassign staff to ensure that the core areas were covered. And again, so that's really the big ticket items. We had to spend over budget for substitutes for $238,000. If you offset that against turnover and FML savings, that's $572,000. The line that says budget placeholders, what that is that we had planned to make adjustment to staffing for fiscal 22. So this is pretty much what we planned for and pretty much what happened. So we pretty much had some overall savings to that. And a lot of that as well had to do with turnover and also with reassignment of staff. We had better than expected results for various categories: homeborn tutors, for bus aides. We did talk about during the course of last year that we did review one of the behavioral position in SPET. That position was eliminated. The net degree level change, workers' compensation reimbursement, and some others, and savings in overtime stipends and the various other categories. So really, the big headline here is that really is turnover and sort of overall staff shortages for fiscal 22. Also closely related to that is really benefits and health insurance. Our census level for fiscal 22 was significantly low. I think I spoke about that repeatedly, that we have never seen levels to where they are, where they were last year. And we will have savings for health insurance of approximately $479,000. We will offset that by an ERIP, which was approved post-budget 22 for $149,000, and other FICA Med and other benefits for $154,000. Property services, overall savings there of $54,000. Other services, and this has to do, when we talk about other services, we're talking about tuition and settlement, transportation, fuel costs, and travel and stuff like that. We are coming in better than budgeted for tuition and settlement to the tune of $261,000. A lot of that has to do with the various, what we expected to happen. Did not happen. In addition to that, we also saw movement with families as well, where families moved out of the districts of families who we were anticipating to settle with or to have tuition for. Those families moved out of district. And also, what also tied into that is that for tuition students, we did have the transition as well, where they were not in school for some days, where they're pretty much remote. So we have some savings there. Transportation, the big number here has the combination of both athletics and regular ed transportation to the tune of $62,000. Fuel costs, we are coming in we are above budget, but we are less than where we previously thought we would be. And then we have other savings in travel and conferences. Again, not a lot of travel and conferencing because of COVID and just that transition, and also other categories in that section. Supplies, we're approximately $20,000 over budget. We're better than expected for supplies. We spent a little bit more money in software. You may recall that we purchased additional licenses for Tableau last year, and this is pretty much just to help us with our overall data analysis of our student progress in the district. Books, we did pre-purchase books for FY23, 91,000 or so, and we had a slight increase in our overall utility cost. Equipment, the big headline here for equipment has to do with additional purchases of smart displays and other infrastructure hardware that we purchased. In addition to that, for fiscal 22, we opted to purchase instead of leasing for fiscal 22. So the difference there is approximately $178,000. We did spend money at the end of the year to upgrade theater and equipment that Mike mentioned for facilities. So overall cost there is approximately $147,000. Savings, then we have dues and fees. We have some savings there. Revenue offsets that we pretty much did not collect as much as we thought, $25,000. And we did have other categories where we saw better than expected results. Let me get this right. So this is better than expected. We did get credit from First Student for routes that they did not do for the first half of the year. We do anticipate that we will be receiving an additional credit for the second half of the year, which will be applied to fiscal 23. We had better than expected results for tuition. Gate receipts was better than expected, and excess costs was also better than expected. There's a caveat here with excess costs, in that our final expenditures were less than our intermediate updates. I think this was in February. So it's a possibility that we will need to repay the state for money that we received above. Typically what happens with that, we discussed that at one of our meetings, I think in April or so, where this adjustment will be made from the educational cost grant that is received by the town. So we will give an update to that when we update the Board of Finance. So Rick can make those adjustments for his projection for fiscal 23. So really, that is the overall high level just highlights for fiscal 23. Fiscal 22, sorry.
Right.
One other thing to point out, or just another reminder. I'm sorry, Melissa. During the budget discussion, we did have the Board of Finance did agree to add money to the non-lapsing account to fund the final payment for a current early retirement incentive to the tune of $140,000.
Okay. Okay, got that. No, this is a good report. I just wanted to highlight, when you're looking at a budget surplus in that amount, that obviously, with COVID and as you highlighted, the staffing and benefits related surpluses, that that this is not just a case of, conservative budgeting or budgeting in a way that, to try and save money towards the end. It's that, these were positions we had hoped to fill, correct me not, right? That we really wanted people in these spots, and for, the factors outside of our control, we weren't able to hire, and therefore, the budgeting was probably would have been accurate in a normal year, just wasn't accurate in a COVID year, and the budget surplus stems from the staffing and the benefits related to that staffing shortages.
Right. And just just another quick update. We do still have remaining encumbrances of $715,000. And this is a wide range of items that we have. So we will continue to spend this, and we will give an update during the course of the year in terms of what progress we have made with paying off our liquidated and open encumbrances.
Okay. So when do we need to make a decision what to do with any of the surplus in terms of how we're allocating that or sending it back to the town, what we're doing?
I do not believe that the Board of Finance has an appetite to set aside money for a non-lapsing account.
Okay.
So I do believe that the money will just go to an unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
We do have an assurance from the town in terms of if we ever come up short, that they will support us. The normal process is that we will request a special appropriation, and the Board of Finance would prefer to do that process as opposed to having funds available in a non-lapsing account, which is fine.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and
But in light of our previous conversation with Tracy and Lisa, it's nice to have that assurance.
Correct.
From the town.
Yes.
From the Board of Finance. Okay.
Which, Melissa, all the more reason to, when we go back to the town, because I think we have to anticipate this is going to, cost some money, that we really have to present a really cogent case for the incremental spending, which on the face of it looks like it's a necessity.
It is a necessity, yeah.
Well, and I would just add, it gives Tracy something in her toolkit, right? Gives her a little bit of flex.
Yeah.
So it's,
yeah,
there's some positive aspects. Yeah. I agree with Steve.
Yep. Agreed.
Quick update on the Internal Services Fund.
Okay.
Internal Services Fund will end the fiscal year slightly below budget, approximately 70% less than anticipated, $29,480. We will end fiscal 22 with a balance of $418,466 in that account. The plan going into fiscal 23 is that this fund, Internal Services Fund, will be funded, fully funded by our operating budget to cover dental claims.
Right. Just for dental claims.
Only for dental claims, correct.
Okay, I remember that discussion.
So in a nutshell, that is the update for fiscal 22. Any questions?
No, I think you were very thorough, and I think we addressed them as they came up. Okay. Unless Steve or Peter has any questions.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Okay. I'm fine.
Good. Fiscal 23, it is still too early in the year to give any sort of updates. We're still working on, I'm still working and doing some analysis of the various salaries. And as you know, with turnover and changing staff assignments, I just have to see to kind of compare that to the budget and make some adjustments regarding that. In addition to that, we did plan that we do have some employees who will be paid from the grant. So I have to see where everything falls and make those adjustments. So we will give another update on overall staff and just how we trend in at the meeting in October.
Okay.
One of the items that we had for fiscal 23 had to do with leasing of equipment. We will be releasing an RFP in the upcoming weeks for that. I do believe that we have not purchased everything as yet. And again, everything has to do with the issues with the supply chain. So as soon as we receive all the equipment, we will issue that RFP. And then that will need to get approval from all funding, from all boards, Board of Education, Board of Selectmen, and also from the Board of Finance, I do believe. And the main reason for that is because this is going to be a multi-year lease. The Board of Finance, because of our funding, we're only funded on an annual basis. So we do need approval from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance for this.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm mindful of the fact that we are running out of overtime, which I think we had a critical topic that we had not anticipated come up. I see we'll do the minutes very, very quickly at the end. Transportation and food service updates. Can we do those quickly, or are those?
Yeah. Really, I think the highlights for those is that our routes have settled. Where we learned a lot from COVID last year in terms of, because at the very end we had to combine buses. Well, what we have learned, because last year we did not operate one of our runs. So for this year, we're operating with 21 runs instead of 22. And so far, it's working okay. We have seen an increase ridership district-wide. A big highlight or a big push that we have for this year is the release of our First View app. So this is pretty much, hey, that will give a family an update in terms of where their bus is, and so that they won't be standing at the bus stop with their bus stop too long.
I saw that went to all families, right?
It did. So
I saw the email.
Yeah, we will be our plan is to roll it out to the entire district next week.
That's great.
People
are going to love it.
Yep, I did track one student, and it is working. It gave me an update that a student that a bus was half an hour from my location. So we expect it to be a great addition and a great improvement, a great service to the families. Of course,
I'm really excited about that. I think people
with anything new, there may be kinks, but we do have First Student is strongly behind this, and they do have a strong support team for this.
Great, that's great news.
Okay.
Well, good update on transportation. How about food service?
Real quick. So just like with anything else, you guys may have noticed in your travels that there's been a disruption to the food service industries, and anything related to food service in terms of there is worker shortage.
Yep.
And we're not immune to that. So we are seeing that. However, we have and we are providing high quality food and a variety of food at all levels to all of our students. The experience is a little bit different to start, and then it's not what we want, especially for our flagship for the high school. So we are diligently working with our partners, Chartwells, to find staff, and it's just been a struggle. We do have interviews today for 3 staff members. So we're hoping that as the month progresses, that we'll get to a point, especially at the high school, where we can get back to the experience that the students have come to expect from the high school. So we'll be doing that.
Okay.
Just real quick on transportation, just to give a quick flag here, we're making another change for athletics. So because we need to use a third party service to provide transportation for services before 4:30. We're trying to minimize the disruption to our home to school operation. Last year, you will recall that we did have a major disruption where we had to combine a lot of our buses, and we do not want to have that for this year. So because we do not want to have that, we're going to be using a third party to provide this transportation service for athletics before the buses return to the depot at about 4:50 and 4:30. It is going to be an additional cost. So I just want to flag that in the offset. We will definitely find ways to absorb that within our budget. But I do believe that going forward, that this is the model that we're going to have to go with, because we're seeing the disruption to bus drivers, and our core operation is at home to school, and we want to ensure that we provide the least disruption to that. So just to flag that additional cost for this year, and we will see additional cost for that for the upcoming budget season.
No, I think that's sound logic, and I certainly appreciate you being ahead of that issue and anticipating that ahead of time. That's important.
All right, so that's pretty much it for today.
Okay, fabulous. Very thorough meeting. Thank you, everyone. Let's just approve the minutes from the June meeting real quick, and then we'll be able to go. I know Steve wasn't here, so Peter, do you mind giving a motion if you've had a chance to review the minutes? I looked at them. Do you have any changes or corrections to them? First of all? Okay, do you mind making a motion to approve the June minutes?
Motion to approve the June Board of Education.
Okay, all right, I'll second that. And then we can all vote. Steve, you can vote if you want, even though you weren't on the committee, but I'm going to vote in favor of the minutes. Peter, are you voting in favor as well? Okay. Great, then that motion passes and we've approved the minutes. That's the last agenda item. So thank you everyone for your patience. I know we ran over, but I thought it was a very thorough meeting for back to school, important issues to discuss. Mike, it was great to hear all the hard work of the team over the summer and all the things that you were able to accomplish. The grounds look great, the buildings look great. And Phil, thank you for such thorough financial reporting and keeping us apprised of all the issues. So great job, everyone. And look forward to seeing you sooner, but in October for sure.
Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay, you as well.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.